What's going on YouTube? It's Tej back again with another video, and today we're talking about the Green Bay Packers as a part of our 2021 NFL season preview series, down to our final two teams, including the Packers, one of the best teams that the NFL has to offer. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video, and if you do, please hit that like button. It really would help me out a ton. And if you're new to the channel and want to help us get closer to 300 subscribers, hit that big red subscribe button. And comment down below your thoughts on the Green Bay Packers. Do you think some of the Aaron Rodgers drama carries over into this season? The health of this team? Do you think the offensive line is going to be okay? What are some X factors, some win predictions, some games you're looking forward to watch? Love to have your thoughts. I respond to every comment. So let's talk about the Packers down below. Win range 11 to 15 wins. Like I said off top, this is one of the best teams that the NFL has to offer. Probably a top 4 to 5 team. I have my updated power rankings coming out very soon. And spoiler alert, Packers top 5 team, probably the second best team in the NFC in my eye. I've been projected at 13-4 per my updated NFL season predictions. If you missed that video, definitely go back and check it out. I think this team is really well rounded. It helps having one of the best QBs still doing it. Davante Adams, probably the most productive wide receiver in the NFL again this year, unless Tyreek Hill just, balls out and stays healthy, plays every week. That's a possibility. Maybe DeAndre Hopkins gets used in more versatile roles in Arizona, but that's not what we're talking about. Davante Adams could be a monster one way or another. And I do think once David Bakhtiari especially comes back, that offensive line will be really, really good. And maybe they'll slide Elton Jenkins over to right tackle. I've been kind of vying for that team to do that for a while. But in the meantime, no Bakhtiari. That's a little bit of a problem, but it should be for the first 6 weeks or so. So by the time we're playing in the playoffs, Green Bay will have Bakhtiari, maybe the best pass-protecting left tackle in the league, back at full strength. I'm also a big fan of Aaron Jones' game. He's just a really complete running back, well-rounded, and I have him in a couple of fantasy leagues, so I'm hoping he has a big year for sure. And then you flip over to the defense, they have some studs, no doubt about it. Jair Alexander, in my mind, number 2 cornerback in the entire NFL behind Jalen Ramsey. Love Adrian Amos, such an underrated player. Darnell Savage makes big plays, and I think this is a year where he solidifies himself as one of the best up-and-coming defensive backs the NFL has to offer. I think bringing in Devondre Campbell, really solid veteran inside linebacker, pair him with Chris Barnes, I think it's a solid duo, and that's not a position group I think you have to be excellent at to be a really good football team. And then Zadarius Smith has proven to be one of the best pass rushers at that outside linebacker position. And then the combination of Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary, who we'll talk about later on, I think is a nice complement opposite, and I think there's enough production between those two to get the job done. Kenny Clark still gets it done at a high level, though he is starting to regress. He's getting a little older, and they could use some help across the interior, the defensive line. Dean Lowry, you'd like to see him pick up where Kenny Clark might take a step back, but Clark can be a good pass rushing D tackle. He can also play some nose, stop against the run. He's just a really good football player overall. So all that to say, the Packers are really good. They have some great star power, and they don't have a whole lot of holes, and they don't have holes at glaringly important positions, right? Like some of my reservations about like the Bears, right? Like their weaknesses are in the cornerback group and the offensive tackle spots, and that's too big of a concern. You look at the Packers and you say maybe the interior offensive line's not great, inside linebackers aren't phenomenal, and we'll talk about that number 2 cornerback position later on. But those are all holes that won't necessarily cost you from being a great football team. Now they might cost you a loss in the NFC Championship game, like we saw Kevin King. I don't want to say single-handedly, but Kevin King was a big factor in why they lost to the Bucs in the NFC Championship game last year. But we'll talk about that later on. Realistic goal, get back to that NFC Championship game. I definitely think it's in play for this team. And for the reach goal, win the Super Bowl. There's a handful of teams, maybe just over one handful worth of NFL teams that have a legit shot at winning the Super Bowl, and it's not something that's like lightning in the bottle. Green Bay is one of those teams. It's not going to be a freak occurrence if they do come away with the Lombardi. It's because they're one of the best teams in the NFL, and they played their cards right, and they did get a little lucky. You have to get lucky to win it all. Winning the Super Bowl inherently is like hitting on a 13-leg parlay. It takes a lot of luck, but the Packers are one of those teams that have put enough talent around a great player like Aaron Rodgers, and they have a good coaching staff. They have put themselves in a position to get lucky and be good by themselves. X Factors, Billy Turner. I'd love to see him kick back into guard, and that might come to fruition with David Bakhtiari returning to left tackle, and especially if Elton Jenkins looks as good as I think he will, filling in for Bakhtiari, then I think Jenkins makes sense to play at right tackle as opposed to sliding him in to play at left guard. Then you could take Turner from right tackle to play that left guard spot. A lot of confusing words there and a lot of movement, but wherever Turner's playing, he's going to be relied on as a starter. And the reason these three players are X factors, Turner, Gary, and King, is because I think they're fine and they're good. And even if they don't play up to super high levels of their expected outcomes, they are not going to cost Green Bay a playoff appearance. But these three, if they hit the high side of their variance, could lead Green Bay to that reach goal and winning a Super Bowl. But if they don't, they're losing in the NFC Championship game or maybe even the divisional round. So that's why I highlighted these three players, just to preface that. Turner, if he plays well, haven't really seen a whole lot of above average play out of him over the past few years, but if he can hit a level that he hasn't hit for quite some time, and maybe he's good enough at that right tackle spot, then I think this offensive line will be able to maintain a high level standard. It may not be elite like it's been in years past, but still be an above average group, and that should be good enough to get the job done. Rashan Gary, I figure, will be the starting outside linebacker, taking over for Preston Smith, though Preston Smith, weirdly enough, seems to ball out every other year, and 2 years ago he had like 10 sacks, so not ruling it out that Preston Smith has that weird occurrences continue into this season and he has another good year. I think Rashan Gary will continue to see his snap count go up, and he really had a couple of big games that padded the stats last year. I like to see him be a consistent presence, and outside linebacker is kind of a tough spot. Being an edge rusher, you're not always going to get a sack a week. It's not as easy as passing production, right, where you can expect X amount of yards every week, and then you have some ups, and then you try to limit how much your downs. Pass rushers, you could go a couple weeks without a sack, and then all of a sudden explode for 4 in one game. So I'm just interested to see, when he's not getting sacks, what kind of an impact Rashan Gary has on a game, right? Like even games where Za'Darius Smith gets shut out, doesn't get a sack, he's racking up pressures, he's getting QB hurries, and he's making his presence felt, and he's still somebody you have to game plan for. So if Rashan Gary can take that step forward and become that second fiddle and a legit nice starting edge option opposite of Za'Darius Smith, that helps this defense exponentially. And Kevin King, look, the NFC Championship game last year was probably the worst game of his career. It's definitely the one that has been seen by the most people, so even if it's not technically the worst game he's played at the NFL level, it's definitely the one that sticks out the most in people's minds. And in a lot of ways, you could point to Kevin King as a large portion of the puzzle for why Green Bay lost to Tampa Bay. Overall, I think Tampa Bay was probably just a better team. They were playing great football, but Kevin King giving up that touchdown towards the end of the first half swung momentum, and it really put Tampa in the driver's seat, and in a one-score game, it proved to be a part of the difference. I think he'll play a little bit better. I think the defense with Joe Barry, more zones, more quarters, kind of catching up with the modern shift in defensive philosophies, I think that helps out Kevin King a ton. And if he can just be average, this secondary is great because they're phenomenal with Jair Alexander, really good with the safety duo. It's just Kevin King sometimes gets picked on. But if that quarters can limit the damage that King can give up and play some damage control there, and then if he just plays better, like if he's still a young guy overall, and if he can just take a step forward this year, that makes you feel a lot better about this defense. And maybe it's not Kevin King. Maybe mid-season point, it's Eric Stokes looking like he belongs as a starting outside cornerback. If that's the case, then make him the final X factor here. But if that CB2 position can just be average, if it can just be okay, the rest of the secondary is good enough to make that entire unit really, really solid and plenty good enough to come away with a Super Bowl championship. Games to watch, then we'll close this video out. Week 3 at San Francisco. I think the 49ers are a bad matchup, especially this game coming in the duration of time where David Bakhtiari is not playing. So Nick Bosa, I think Elton Jenkins is going to be fine. He's going to be great, but also taking Jenkins away from the interior. Maybe it's Eric Armstead who balls out, or maybe they're moving Bosa inside, trying to get favorable matchups. Whatever the case may be, the 49ers beat up on Green Bay a couple years ago. I think San Francisco's defense was a little bit better then than it is now, and additionally, maybe Green Bay's better. It's year 3 of the Matt LaFleur system and coaching regime as opposed to year 1. That has to play a factor into maybe where Green Bay can cover some ground and level the playing field compared to where these two teams were in 2019. So, and it's on the road. Aaron Rodgers going back home too is kind of a fun storyline. So that's definitely a game you have to watch. A welterweight matchup. If the 49ers are healthy, they're making a run at Green Bay for that next best team behind Tampa Bay in the NFC standings. Week 9 at Kansas City. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, two most talented quarterbacks doing it right now. Brady does it in just a different way, but when you're talking strictly talent, Mahomes, Rodgers, these guys are unbelievable. Yeah, this is definitely a game you have to watch. And it's also one where you're just comparing yourself against a team that's not in the NFC like San Francisco. This is a barometer on how good you are in the entire landscape of the NFL. And Green Bay, if they were to go into Arrowhead and beat Kansas City, what a statement that would prove to be. That would be a massive win. I mean, you would see the Packers fly into number 1 on people's power rankings. So a lot of weight behind that game for sure. And then week 15 against Cleveland, similar sort of deal. I think Cleveland's going to be in and around that, top 4, top 5 team in the NFL power rankings, how we look at teams, cross conferences. So this could be another one that gives Green Bay the edge over Cleveland, assuming they can come away with a win at home. But if they come up short, lose a home game at Lambeau to Cleveland, then you'll start to see those two roles reverse. But another barometer game where you can see how you stack up against some of the best teams the NFL has to offer. But that is going to do it for my 2021 Green Bay Packers season preview video. Hopefully you all enjoyed. And if you did, please hit that like button. It would help me out a ton. And if you're new to the channel and want more sports content, want to help us get closer to 300 subscribers, it would mean the world to me. You can do so by hitting that big red subscribe button. Comment your thoughts on the Green Bay Packers down in the comments section. How many wins do you think they get? Who are some X factors, some games you're looking forward to watching them play? Love to have your thoughts. I respond to every comment. So let's talk about the Packers down below. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Teach, and I'm signing off.